Hey everyone, it is the end of the month, September 30th. Tomorrow is going to be a big day. The first of the month is chock full of listings that are expired and canceled. Today and yesterday, it was surprising. I only had about 30 total canceled and expired listings to call from. I use the Vulcan dialer and their data. Usually it's tons more. It's like more than I can ever handle. But I'm expecting it to be, obviously more substantial because listings tend to expire at the end of the month. But yeah, there's also been a lot of canceled listings that I would check on the data, anywhere from 0 days on the market to 10 days. It's a substantial amount of them the last week, where I'm just seeing that the market is, in the perception of these sellers, has been so poor, and their listing agent couldn't necessarily convince them otherwise, that there was no point being on the market. I got a lot of people telling me, oh no, give me a call back in January and February, and they were on the market less than a week, less than 2 weeks in some cases. And I guess it's just because they had beautiful homes, and these are homes everywhere from Sarasota to Safety Harbor. If you know the Tampa Bay region, that's a very wide gamut that I serve, and that's maybe 2 hours from tip to tip. And families in at least the decision maker that I was speaking to in each of those contexts was like, yeah, this market is horrible. And this market isn't great, but it's not horrible because things are still turning over. The numbers are down, but the numbers are not off. Like, what that means is, let's say we're down 30% from last year, or even more from, let's say, the pandemic highs. Properties are still selling. They're selling, if they're priced right. Unfortunately for sellers, pricing right means underpricing where you were expecting to be. If maybe you heard in July of this year that you could have sold your home for $700,000, maybe it's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, pool, etc. Maybe that means that $700,000 is not possible. Maybe it means you're looking at $650 best case scenario, but more likely than not, you're looking at $600, because the property values in Tampa Bay, but I'm guessing in Florida in general, are ridiculously high from their pandemic days, the pre-pandemic days. So from the buyer's perspective, especially the buyers that had a really poor experience of trying to put in offers during the pandemic, they're looking at a home that's listed today for $700,000 with the knowledge that 5 years ago that home was listed for $450. So for them, listing it at $700 and taking 1 or 2 price reductions, they're still looking at the home as it's overpriced. And I think sellers instinctively understand that, because no one wants to sell high and then have to buy high, but they also have to come to terms that the value that you see for yourself, basically, maybe you missed the market, maybe you didn't, the value to the buyer is a lot different, and they have a lot more say. And that's something I've been experiencing, having conversations when I'm trying to get my listing appointments this week. I've been asking the regular questions, pricing the property, where I think you can get, where I see the market in general. I'd like to have a further conversation with you, etc. But I've heard more than I've heard in any other week that I've been doing cold calling. People saying, I'll just wait. If I can't get my price, I'm not going to go forward. And for me, I'm allergic to working for someone that's not motivated. So if they want to get $700,000 for a property that was been on the market for 6 months, that maybe started off at $725 or $700. I've seen a lot of properties in 6 months, not a single price reduction. That's telling me that it's a difficult client, and I don't need any difficult clients. These last year and a half have taught me the type of clients I really enjoy working with, the type of clients that I enjoy serving. I mean, granted, I'll work hard for anyone, but you work slightly harder emotionally for the ones that appreciate your effort, and the ones that also are willing to take advice. And I don't pretend to be an expert, but when a client is looking at what the market is telling them with its silence and misinterpreting that, it's disheartening. And if I hear it on the phone, it's kind of like an interview. When you're going for a job interview, the best presentation is usually your first interaction. The person interviewing you, if they're a hiring manager, typically on their best behavior, best presentation of the company and the company culture. You as the applicant, best presentation, this is the best you'll ever dress, etc. And it kind of goes down from there. If they're telling me at the jump, after 6 months of the wrong strategy, that they want to, go back to it, even if they're not going to go back to the same agent, they're going to go back to the same strategy in terms of the pricing, that's telling me that that's not a client I want to work with. The phone call is meant to, wedge my way into the opportunity to introduce myself in person or over Zoom. But if they're telling me flat out, look, I need to make 700,000, and I can check on their records. Maybe they bought the home for 200,000 or 300,000. Maybe they put some improvements into it. But the market has told them over the last couple of, over this last listing, that they're not interested at that price. I just want to be able to coach them into that conversation. If they're not hearing it, then I'm moving on. And that's just been a surprise this week that I've heard that a lot. I'm hoping that I don't hear that as much from the first onwards, because there'll be such a deluge of new leads, new expires and canceled, that maybe there'll be more people that are willing, because there's a spike in home sale activity in November in Florida, and those usually get under contract in October. So there's a real push for me to get hopefully the last deals of the year by getting some listings this month in October, and that's what I'm trying to do, because after October, anything I get is likely to close in January. So that's just 2026 money that I've been working on. But that's the goal for tomorrow. The goal for tomorrow is to be on my A game, be on the phones at 8, and hopefully secure 4 or 5 listing appointments for this week and weekend, and get the ball rolling on the end of the year, so we can hit it off with a bang. All right, thanks for listening. Talk to you guys later. Bye. Peace. That's JB.